Hello, guys, and welcome to episode 9 of the bunnies BZCast. I am your host, Randy. Um, Again, this is the bunnysign.com podcast, Bunny Podcast, the BZCast. Today is a little bit of a different episode as I will be doing this episode by myself, guest free. Um, it's a very, very personal podcast that I've been looking to do for months, ever since we kind of came up with the idea of doing the podcast. I've had this date circled on my calendar to do this show. Um, this particular kind of show um, is why I kind of put off doing a BZcast in October. Earlier in the month of October. Today is October 18th, and I will go into more detail of the importance of that date in a minute. I kind of put off doing those shows. Other podcasts, I had ideas, but I'm kind of putting them off up until maybe end of October, early November. I have a couple ideas, but I might go into detail with them later. I might not. But it's a very personal podcast. But as always, I will still start with the Bunnysign e-magazine, the October issue, which we're still currently in October. So uh, with Knickerbocker, as Nick is the master cuddler on the cover of our Halloween issue. Which is really, really cool. It's got really good pictures of like bunnies and costumes and stuff. I definitely recommend it. Our featured rescue is Dilly Dally Rescue. So the links are a little bit different to help change it up with the downloads. But there is a separate link to donate to Dilly Dally, so don't forget about them. Remember, it's all about the rescues. Those guys are doing a ton of work behind the scenes. So that's what we're all about. And so make sure to... sorry, losing my train of thought. Make sure to think about donating to the rescue. Even $1 helps out. Our social media pages, as I say on every show, we are just Bunnysign on Facebook. We are just... we are at, not at, but official Bunnysign on Instagram, and then we are at official Bzine on Twitter, and then at official Bzine on Periscope. Sorry, it's today's a little bit of a different episode, and I will get into that. Well, way more than a different episode. So talking about other stuff is kind of throwing me off, but it's my duty as a podcast host. Sorry, answering a quick text message. Our podcast channels, we are just Bunnysign BZCast on YouTube, Bunnysign BZCast on iTunes Podcast, and Bunnysign BZCast on Soundcloud. This particular episode, I will be recommending to watch it on YouTube, or at least check it out through the YouTube channel. There will be other links to... sorry, excuse me, I was holding in a burp. There will be other links that I will go more into later into the podcast, and the importance of those links. And those links will be in the YouTube, like in the summary of the description of the YouTube channel. So I will more recommend that than others, and go into the importance of the YouTube one again later in the podcast. As I've posted a couple of times on Facebook, and Twitter, and Instagram. Instagram just once, but Twitter and Facebook a couple of times in the last week or so, that I would be doing a special tribute episode for my Rainbow Bridge bunny Milo. Again, I've had this thought of doing this episode for months, and I'm just lost for words. It took me a long time to prepare for it. Like I said, and that's why I put off other um, episodes of the BZCast, and I'm kind of talking in circles here, but it will be a lot more clear once I get into his story. October 18th is exactly 1 year. It's the day that we are recording this. Is 1 year of his passing. Um, his got you day was November 3rd, but this year that was the day before my wife and I's wedding, and with work and a rehearsal and picking up tuxes, it just wasn't going to happen. So I decided, when the wedding date came to be obviously months ago, that I would just save it for the 1 year mark of his passing. I will, of course, always talk about Milo and bring him up in other podcasts. If you listen to previous BZCast episodes, if you haven't, I recommend you do. We've had really great guests and just on really great bunny-related topics. But if you have, you know that I've talked about Milo with my guests because he's really been. I have two bunnies now, as some of you know from watching us on Periscope. I have two bunnies now, but Milo was my first bunny, my first overall experience with a bunny, and wow, it was an amazing run. I don't want to say run; it's a stupid term to use, but it was amazing. It changed my life. It changed my perspective on a lot of things, on how I view animals and how I view relationships with animals. So I will just go right into Milo's story. And then there are other tributes. As far as I know, I have 3 to read. That were either emailed to me at bunnieszoncast@gmail.com. Again, that's bunnieszoncast@gmail.com. Or they were either messaged to the Bunniezine inbox. As I'm going throughout the episode, I will double check to see if anyone has messaged or emailed more. I definitely will not leave any out. That's great thing about this podcast. And the one good thing, I guess, about not being sponsored is we don't have time restrictions or time, what's the word I'm looking for? Time goals to meet. If you listen to other podcasts, they always kind of hover around a certain minute mark, and that's for sponsors. So that's the one good thing about not being sponsored, even though we would love to be, is that I have the utter freedom to kind of go as long as I want, whether it's 30 minutes or whether it's an hour and a half. So either way, it gets posted on YouTube, on Soundcloud, and iTunes podcast. And then I do have my PBSA, which all kind of just relates in terms to the subject of the podcast, which is Milo. So going into his story, sorry, took a quick second break. I got a glass of water and I got all this paperwork and notes. Notes is just one word bullet points just to make sure there's stuff I don't forget. It's the longest. It's literally 2 pages long. It's literally the most I've ever written down for the BZCast in preparation for a show. Usually it's intro and then topics with the guest and then outro. That's pretty much it. And there's so much more breakdown with this episode, obviously because it's so personal. I would like to thank Dustin, the creator of Bunniezine, Dustin Campbell, and the Bunniezine team for letting me do this. I just think it's a really great opportunity that I have to do this podcast and to do to be a little selfish and do a tribute episode for my bunny Milo. I am not. You guys never see my face on camera for really Periscope or YouTube, but I'm not even recording myself. I'm off to the right, my computer's just recording a wall because talking about Milo and kind of going over his story. Whenever my wife and I talk about it, it gets really emotional, as you could kind of hear it in my voice. So that's why I kind of keeping myself off camera, just as being honest with you guys. So when it came to let's start with the very beginning. When it came to adopting a bunny, my wife at the time, my fiance and I, were looking into getting a puppy or like a bunny to keep. We lived at two separate. I was living with my mom in an apartment, and she was living with her parents, and we would keep the bunny or puppy at my apartment, and then whenever she wasn't working and we were both free, we would both spend time with him or her. Her parents didn't really want a bunny in the house, and my mom was okay with it, I guess. Um, so when it came to adopting Milo, we were just kind of talking, and she had had one bunny before that got sick and passed away, but kind of going over me of what they eat and there's certain requirements how they're different from cats and dogs, and even then it's still when you first have a bunny, it still doesn't like translate as to, oh wow, these are the differences that you really do come across and how unique they are, bunnies. So literally, we I don't know how it came to be, but I was joking with her about looking for like a big breed, and it was more of like a masculinity thing, which was really stupid on my part. Um, like, oh, if I gotta have like a bunny rabbit, that my friends are gonna eventually rip on me for, then I gotta have like the big one, which again is really stupid on my part, really dumb. Um, but that was like over 4 years ago, so that was just a less mature version of myself. Um, I literally Googled like Flemish Giant for adoption in Illinois, and her and I were just screwing around, and there was this weird website. I don't even remember the name of the website. I just remember the background of the website being orange, and there was Milo, a picture of this brown Flemish Giant, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's a big rabbit. And I give her crap for this all the time. My wife was kind of iffy, and I kind of knew right away. I was just like, oh, he looks really, really cool. He looks really awesome. The guy had his email posted, so we emailed him, and it became very like frequent with the emails, just because we didn't want anyone else to adopt him. So we were emailing him like right away. The ad had been up for a couple of days on this website, and and then we exchanged phone numbers, and then he kind of explained. So I really can't sum this up more as destiny. Like, to me, it's just complete destiny that we adopted Milo, because he this gentleman who was they were only about 35 minutes away, which was nice and convenient, easy drive. Had a family of 5, and pretty much every kid in the house that between the age of like, I think they're between the age of like 18 and 6. His like second youngest daughter between like maybe 11 and 13 asked for a bunny. I never found out the rescue, which I wish I did, but he found Milo at a rescue in Illinois, and brought him home, and they found out within a couple of days his daughter was having allergic reactions to the rabbit, to Milo, sorry, and that's crazy, because they had like a gerbil, a cat and a dog, and a bird, I believe. Some like 4 other different animals that each like kid had, and her daughter ends up becoming, or his daughter ends up becoming allergic to Milo, which is just crazy. So Milo was not being kept in the house. He was being kept like in the area of the garage. I'm not sure if he was in the garage or if he was out being kept outside, because his daughter was having allergic reactions. So we said immediately, okay, I at the time I didn't know anything outside of what my fiance at the time had told me about bunnies, and I was just like, I just know in the month of early September it's still pretty warm in Illinois. It usually hovers around the 70s. Um, it's probably he shouldn't be living outside. That was just one thing I just kind of knew, just him giving me the details. So we immediately went to go adopt him, and when we saw him, we organized to go pick him up from his house. I think he wanted like $50 or whatever. So we just handed him the $50. He gave me his little carry-on cage to bring him home, and immediately we see him in his cage outside, and we're like, oh my gosh, like he was gigantic. And my wife gets to the thing, his to the cage first, and he immediately like is licking her hand as she's like petting him, and she was just like blown away. She's like, oh my god, he's giving me bunny kisses. He's too awesome. And I was like, all right, there's not even a discussion. There might have been a discussion on the way there about if this is just a meet or if we were adopting him. But immediately we knew we were bringing him home. So bringing him home, there's a little bit of a transition because he was only in my mom's apartment for a couple of weeks. My mom and I kind of had a falling out. She was dealing with a lot of personal issues, and they were kind of intervening what was going on with my life. I don't want to go into any more detail. I'm not trying to put hate onto my mom. My mom has been passed away for 3 years now, but she was dealing with a lot of personal problems. So I had to take Milo and I out of the apartment and just move out, and so it was a transition again for him to going from the apartment and into my into my fiance's home. Her parents were not thrilled with it at all. It was supposed to be like a short-term thing, and we just both ended up living there. Both Milo and I living at my fiance's parents' house. Well, we weren't engaged at the time even when we got Milo. Or were we? I'm trying to think of the actual timeline, but no, shortly after. Shortly after we got engaged. That's right. It was like about 2 months after. So no, at the time of adopting Milo, we were not engaged. So I was just a boyfriend living in their house. I'm very grateful for her parents for letting me move in. But so we immediately found out that because he's a Flemish, needed a big cage, and ended up buying this expensive dog kennel cage. I think it was like off Amazon or I think it was PetSmart. PetSmart. We had a PetSmart pretty close to us, like 5-minute drive, which wasn't always convenient for like getting his nails trimmed. But immediately he did not like it at all. He just didn't like being in a cage. We would be sleeping at night, and he is shaking the door with his teeth and just rocking it back and forth. We found out pretty quickly how strong he was and how fast he can move. So it just eventually became that her and I looked into bunny proofing the room, and what things that need to be protected, and what he might chew on, and etc. So he eventually became free range, and that was the best decision because you saw his personality, you saw his character really evolve over time, and he just seemed happy like all the time. Out of like random times that he would get scared, by like sounds outside or something, or start thumping. He was just always so relaxed and just like very calm, or he's like binking around or sprinting around the bedroom, because the bedroom basically became his room. Like he had a whole like 14 by 14 bedroom to himself. Well, him and my then my then fiance at the time. we picked him up toys, the little chewing blocks from PetSmart. He loved those. His favorite thing was that you could really constitute as a quote unquote toy was the little ball that you would put treats in, and it has little holes in it. And when Milo would roll it, he would roll it with his nose. Treats would come piling out, and he had an absolute blast. We just we did it all the time, and most of the time we would just do it with like a couple of pellets. We would just put a couple of pellets in the ball. We always monitored his eating of pellets, so we would just take a couple out of his bowl that we were going to give him that day and put him in the ball, and he was just having a blast. I recorded it on video a couple of times, and it's I still watch it to this day and still kind of laugh about it. And then as time started more progressing, he just became really comfortable with my wife and I. Again, at that time, fiance, but I'm just gonna keep saying wife so I don't have to keep repeating myself. He just became very comfortable. I mean, you could call him, you could like thump on the ground, like, hey buddy, come over here, and he would just hop over and lay down with you, and or if you were saying, hey buddy, are you ready for some lettuce? Are you ready for some food or treat? You just instantly recognized it right away. Or if you brought hay in there, he never liked being picked up, and he never jumped on your lap. But if you had like a bag of hay like on your lap, you got 15 pounds of Flemish Giant hopping on your lap for some hay, which was always hilarious. It was just one of his antics, one of his shenanigans that he would do. And his bunny kisses were insane. If you had open skin anywhere on your body, he would kiss it. You got I'm not joking. If you wore shorts in the summertime, he would lick your whole leg and then just hop away, or your whole arm if you're wearing a t-shirt. The one when I think after a couple of months we had him and he was getting comfortable, I just laid on my back and I wore like a sweatshirt and pants. I'm like, I'm just gonna see if he licks my face, and then he just kind of hopped over. He's sniffing me, and then he's just kissing my face, and I was like so ticklish and like giggly that like a little girl that I was just laughing. I just thought it was the cutest thing. And he was insane with it though. With like any person, just bunny kisses for everyone, and that was just one of the funniest things about him. We were also new to flopping, which is something that I know every single one of you that is listening. If you don't know it ahead of time, it'll scare the crap out of you. The vet that we had at the time was not a bad guy. He was actually listed on the House Rabbit Society, like recommended vet page or something like that. And I'm not trying to take any kind of shots at him. I love the House Rabbit Society. They're great people. But this guy did not know what flopping was, or because we didn't know the word flopping. So when we were describing this to him, we're like, look, he just lays on his side and closes his eyes, and you could barely tell if he's breathing. And then when we shake him, he wakes up in like a daze, and we're like, we don't know if it's like we were like freaking out. Is this like a brain issue? Is this like you just kind of think of the worst, and he didn't have like really a clue at all. He's like, oh my gosh, I have never really heard of this, and blah, blah, blah. And so we kind of left home with, I don't even remember if we brought home like an antibiotic or something like that. And it was like some kind of antibiotic. I don't even remember what it was. And I'm thankful that we didn't give it to him, because I saw like a video on Facebook or on YouTube. This is to the point where I slowly started getting like slightly obsessive with watching bunny videos and looking at bunnies on the internet. just because of how awesome Milo was. And I saw a flop, and I'm like, wait a second. Hey, that bunny is doing that. And I call my wife over, and she's looking at the video on my laptop, and she's like, huh. And then I was like, what the heck is a flop? And then we like Google it, and I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. You look up the definition, and it's just like when the bunny basically gets in this calm state, relaxed state, just rolls over on its side and like takes a little snooze. uh, so that was really fun. I mean, of course, when you go through that, you're freaked out, but you always laugh at the end when you just find out what it is. I mean, it's hard not to be worried about him just taking a, a nap. um, so that was a lot of fun to go through, and he did that like all the time. Like he would lay next to you, and just like kind of clean his paws, kind of clean his side, and then just flop, and his back would like bounce off my leg. Um, it was just adorable. That's how comfortable he was with us. Um, of flopping and laying down and stretching out and laying his head on my shoulder, my arm, my leg. Um, that like again, the having him be free range and spending time with us when he was free range 24/7 was great. Because over time, when my wife got a new job, it became that she was working at nights and I was home at days for like 4 or 5 days a week. So it kind of worked out in that aspect of having Milo that one of us was always kind of home with him. I know that's something that everyone doesn't have, and doesn't sound like that great of a thing. But someone outside of doing some social with friends and going out and all that, someone most of the time was home, which was pretty nice, and I think that actually really helped with him like growing on us and expanding our I don't want to say relationship because it sounds weird, but our bond. Um, Milo and pillows. I've referred to this before. It is the most epic thing that I think that I've ever seen a rabbit do, and I got to witness it with my own eyes, um, over a dozen times, if not more. Um, and it's on YouTube. I will go into detail of YouTube later, but it's on YouTube, and it's literally just called Milo Loves Pillows. I will put it in the description on the YouTube page for this, or on the YouTube video description. That's what I'm trying to spit out. Um, it is, like I said, is the most epic thing. If you if you stood up a pillow against a wall, Milo would hop over and kind of sniff it, and then he would sort of stand up and dig into it until the pillow kind of flopped over. It would flop over like his head, and you just kind of sit there and laugh. And then he would bite it and then run with it. And sometimes he would do laps with it, drag it down the floor like, and then he would run in his cage with it, throw it in his litter box, and then sit on top of the pillow. When we first saw this, our jaws were dropped. We were like, what? We can't even explain this. It was just hilarious. And then it became like a constant thing to where, I mean, it was hilarious. He was having a blast doing it. You could just see the joy, the joy in his eyes that he was having a blast with it. A couple of times he would try to jump onto the bed. The bed was pretty small, so he could jump onto the bed with the pillow on, but it would like drop it in midair. So in the middle of the night, you just poof, with the pillow dropping on the ground and him hopping up there, and he's licking your face at like 4 o'clock in the morning. Which goes in. I will go into in a couple of minutes of his morning shenanigans. But yeah, that's still by far the most epic thing I've ever seen a rabbit do. And I've only had Milo, and I have 2 right now, but I don't know if I'll ever see anything like that again. It's one of those things I do miss about him is one of those things that we got so used to him doing. I mean, in the middle of the night, you would just wake up and you'd hear him doing it, and we had a little nightlight on the wall, so you could kind of see his shadow, or you could see him doing it, and it was hilarious. You would just kind of wake up, you're not even mad. You have to be up for work in 4 hours, but you're not even mad. You just wake up laughing. That's just how awesome and special he was, that he could wake you up at like 3 or 4 in the morning with running with pillows or making noise because he's hungry for lettuce or in hay. That you just kind of wake up laughing. You're groggy. You're like, but you just kind of wake up laughing. He also had his bear, because it wasn't really possible to get another bunny, and we kind of both wanted him to get possibly bond with a girl, but it just never became possible. We were pretty lucky that we were allowed to have Milo in the house, and it was supposed to be kind of like a quote unquote temporary thing, and it just kind of he lived there for the rest of his life. So my wife had a teddy bear that was like tucked behind our pillows, and then I don't know how it happened. I think he hopped up on the bed one night and he started like looking and picking up the bear off our bed, and then we found out that he just really liked this teddy bear, and it almost kind of felt like he thought the bear was kind of real, to where he was literally cuddling up next to it, which again is one of those epic, amazing things in animals and nature that you just kind of see, and you just kind of have to appreciate it when you see it, because it was just an adorable thing to see. The little bear, maybe like a foot long, a foot tall. You just kind of set it up against the wall, and he would kind of cuddle up next to it, and then he would stick his head between. Just imagine a teddy bear, how it looks. It was a white teddy bear. Stick his head between the paw and the leg, to where the paw was like on his head, and he would just like kind of sit there like that for minutes, hours at a time, like the bear was kind of petting him. It was just, again, one of those amazing things that you could see. And I think there was a video. I know there's a video on YouTube that I'm going to post on the YouTube description of this video of Milo with this bear, of him running around with it. If there's one on YouTube with him laying with the bear, I'll be sure to put it on there. But I don't entirely remember if there's one laying with the bear, but I know there's him running with the bear, because the little bear had this tiny little string around its neck that was underneath the fuzz, and of course he somehow finds it because he's a rabbit MacGyver, and he would pull it, not tug it on the thing, but just get his teeth behind the little thing and run around with the bear. He was either running around with a pillow or running around with the bear. Again, it's just like a crazy thing to watch, and the bear would sometimes end up in his box, in his litter box, and then he would just lay on the bear on top of the box. You just kind of look at him like, Milo, what are you doing, buddy? And he, part of the reason we thought he really like kind of bonded with this bear, maybe even thought in his own mind that it was real, was that he was grooming it like all the time. He would groom it and then lay down next to it. And it was a pretty adorable, cute thing to watch. Laying down at night when Milo was like an everyday thing. When my wife and I started going into the craze that now exists of binge watching TV shows to kind of catch up to the current season. I know we didn't have Showtime. And Dexter was on Showtime in like the 7th or 8th season. It ended up going 8 seasons, but the 7th season was like coming up. And my college at the time had DVDs you could rent. You can rent one at a time, or box sets that you could rent one at a time. So I was renting. It had seasons 1 through 6 of Dexter. So we ended up setting it up to where a friend had Showtime. Um, he would bring over like the downloaded episode. He would download it off Showtime's website and just let us watch it. Um, but as we were binge watching these seasons, we would just kind of lay on the bed or the floor at night and watch all these seasons. Binge watch 6 seasons in, I don't know, like 2 months maybe. It was ridiculous. We were watching like a couple of episodes a night. Milo would come hopping over. Eventually, it wasn't always right away, but come hopping over, and he would lay between us, and he was just chomping and kind of doing like the bunny purr, and he absolutely loved being under a blanket. He loved exploring underneath the blanket, and he loved like cuddling and laying underneath the blanket. Him laying down between my wife and I. It was one of those special moment things that I that I really miss. That was just something we did because it was just the bed and the carpeted floor, and that was it. There wasn't anything to like sit on. You could sit on the bed, but this was always later in the night when we were going to bed soon, so we would just watch like an episode, something on TV, Family Guy or Dexter or whatever, and you would just lay down between us, and it was just, it was like harmony. It was just like nice and peaceful, and it just felt perfect. Um, it's kind of a I'm not going to swear on the podcast, but it's a pain in the what that Milo with me watched so many bad years of, well, like 3 horrible years of the Chicago Cubs with me. That sounds really stupid, but I'm serious because I would watch them. I don't care how bad they were. I would watch them. They're, in the 160 game season, 62, whatever. They were winning like 60 or 70 games, which was pathetic. But I would still watch them. I just love baseball. And he would lay down next to me on a Saturday afternoon or a Monday night, it didn't matter when, and just watch them. He's always like looking at the TV, and I think he just became really interested in like the movement on the TV when it came to baseball, sometimes football, but baseball in particular, because it's pretty slow and easy going. And it was like, again, him sitting there next to me, his head on my leg, and as they're just watching TV, it was just like one of those perfect things that you just, I really miss those kind of moments with them. And like I said, it's a pain because Cubs in about 45 minutes from now are playing in game 2 of the second round of the playoff game. And they won 97 games this year, which is like the 3rd best record in baseball, and they're awesome. And of course it's like, again, I know it sounds stupid, but of course he's not here for it, which I wish he was, because I loved celebrating stuff like that with him. Same thing when it came to Chicago Blackhawks. He would kind of chill next to me when it came to watching hockey, and he was around. Milo was there for the 2nd Stanley Cup in 2013, but the Hawks just won it last year, and I wish he was there with me. Morning shenanigans. As most of you know that have rabbits, are incredibly active in the morning. That's just how they are. And his morning shenanigans included hopping on the bed, basically demanding food, but licking your face until you woke up. And it was crazy that he weighed like 15, 16 pounds for most of his life. Well, most of his life with us. And sometimes he would hop on that bed and you wouldn't even feel a thing. You would just wake up and you got a bunny tongue in your face. And you're like, all right, I'm getting up to feed you. And just hop off. And immediately just start eating, and then you could lay back down and go to bed. More of his morning shenanigans was doing like what I call bunny 500s, doing like laps around the bedroom, running with the pillows, running with the bear. It's pretty much what I could think of off the top of the head, which is other stuff that I talked about minutes ago. But yeah, always super active in the morning. and just kind of waiting to spend time with you or eat. um, the last part of uh, going into before I get into his passing, just kind of sum it up that Milo brought a lot of happiness and a lot of entertainment to my wife and I, like just by being himself, and that which was always like just a crazy, special, unique thing about him. Uh, like I said, just by being himself, we were just always in like a perfect, you know, perfect harmony. It just felt like when he's laying down with you at night that, it just can't get better than this. It was too perfect of a moment. Sorry about that. I know I eventually choke up a little bit talking about him. Because as much as I've talked about him with people, I haven't gone through. I've gone through it in my head, and I've gone through it with my wife. You know, a ton of times, but I haven't gone through it in this kind of format to where I'm telling it to a bunch of people that don't, that know of me, but okay. Um, so as time progressed in October, I think it would be the 14th or the 15th. Um, my wife noticed. Now Milo had particular spots that he would lay at in the bedroom. He laid up against the closet mirror, or this part of the wall or that part of the wall. He was very particular on where he laid down, and I said he always had like two or three spots. And when my wife got up that morning, he was laying at a weird spot next to his bed. It kind of just threw. That's what threw. That was like a signal to her that something was kind of off. And then he wasn't eating. Um, didn't want lettuce, and I'm at work. I'm getting text messages about this. I said, well, um, you know, she had done research in the GI stasis, and it was always her biggest fear. Um, just because it's so common in rabbits, and it's just a big problem. Um, so immediately we both brought. I think we went to that regular vet guy that. This is weird, but we brought him to the vet who didn't know what was flopping. And then he gave her critical care, and he wasn't really reacting to that as well for like a day. He wasn't really getting she to her, because she at the time, and probably still now, is way more of a bunny expert than I am. And I'm I'm doing like a podcast about bunnies, but um, and she said no, he's not really touching this stuff either. I try to give it to him, and he kind of eats it, but then he doesn't want any part of it. So we brought him into this. It was about a 45-minute between, depending on traffic, between 45 minutes to an hour. Midwest Exotic Animal Hospital. They're 24 hours, which was nice. And because we brought him in late at night after she got home from work, which was like 11:30, and the nurse immediately said she might think it's GI stasis, and they did like the X-ray, or I don't know if it was like X-ray and blood test maybe. I kind of noticed he kind of had like a blockage going on. So immediately we were worried that because she was telling us that he was gonna have to stay and be monitored. Again, the place is 24/7, so there's always nurses and other a doctor or two 24 hours a day. Um, he had to wear. I felt so bad for him while he was there. He had to wear a cone because they were putting IVs like around his feet just to make sure everything, liquids were going through or something. And he had to wear a cone because he kept biting the IVs, and his feet were, he had little shaved rings around his feet, and I was just like, I'm so sorry, buddy. um, he was there. I didn't get really a chance to visit at night. I don't know why. I really can't give you any like excuse. There probably isn't an excuse that I didn't visit him um, on Wednesday and Thursday. But my wife did both days with her. She brought a friend both times um, to visit. Sorry, I'm just going over my notes. I came in on October 17th, 2014 at like 10 p.m. between 9 and 10 o'clock at night. I just decided that I got to see him. I miss him too much. And looking back on everything, I'm incredibly grateful that I did. Not grateful to myself, but those I was there for about 2.5 hours. The animal hospital was really nice. They put me and him in just like a separate room. They said, you know what, there might come a point if it gets really busy that we might need this room, but that rarely ever happens. I said, okay. So they put a couple of towels on the floor that he could hop around on, and it was weird because he wasn't like. It was just weird not seeing him for 3 days. We had taken vacations before to like the Wisconsin Dells and out of little vacations out of state, and he would always be happy to see us. But you know, with medication and being around strangers and probably being locked up next to other animals in the back, that he was a little hesitant to cuddle up next to me. He was kind of on guard, and then within I don't know, maybe within 10 or 15 minutes, he kind of realized who I was, and then he was laying down next to me. Um, we were calling the place basically every 4 hours. One of us was calling just to check up on progress, and for the most part, he wasn't really eating. He was pooping just a little. He was eating just a little bit here and there, eating a little bit just here and there. So the progress wasn't really there wasn't really that much progress being made, but he was still like his normal self. I mean, his attitude, his character, he was giving bunny kisses to the nurses and doctors there. Um, but so that night, he was actually eating lettuce. He was sitting down next to me eating lettuce. Um, Not mowing through it by any way, but having a piece or two, which I'm patting him on the head. I have video of this that I've put on my laptop to make sure that I'll that I'll always have it, because it's basically my last moment with him. But sorry. Uh, he was eating. I was there for about 2.5 hours. It was a little after midnight. Sorry. It's the truly emotional part of talking about him. Uh, Said, I should probably get up and leave. Um, my wife was working overnight till 7 a.m., and the plan was to kind of for her to come home, let's have some breakfast, and then she could go back to bed for a couple of hours, maybe 4 or 5 hours, and we could get up and go visit them, both of us. And that was a plan. So that's the plan I had in my head. That's why I left. And there's a lot of things that are really engraved into my head in this passing. And one of them was the kind of look on his face when I was getting up to leave, and the vet like the vet assistant, vet technicians, I'm not exactly sure what they were called, picked him up. He had a he had that kind of look of fear in his eyes, and I felt horrible. And it's still like that look is still like in my head. To this day, and I drove home. Try not to burst into tears while I'm driving, because crying and doing like 60 miles an hour on the speedway probably look like a maniac, but that's how it was, because I was just arguing with myself. I'm like, should I bring him home? Should I just screw these guys, go back there and bring him home and kind of take care of this ourselves, or should I put trust into the medical staff? And I went with the latter. That's just how I always kind of been, pretty trustworthy with doctors and animal vets. So the next morning after my wife and I eat, I was going to lay down, and hold on, give me 2 seconds, guys. Sorry about that. I just had to turn on another light. I couldn't read my notes, my stuff that I had listed out. So that morning, it was weird because I had just turned my phone on vibrate, so if someone texted me or called me, it wouldn't wake my wife up. So I just happened to be looking at my phone, and the phone is ringing, and I was like, I kind of recognize this number. I should answer it. And I'm one of those people that usually doesn't answer on like numbers I don't know. I'm just like, you know what, most of the time I just personally let it go to voicemail, and then I'll be like, oh, usually those kind of things, it's like a company calling you, or a friend or a relative that you didn't have their number. But I just knew to answer the phone, and it was a nurse at Midwest saying Milo went into cardiac arrest. This was about 8 a.m. on Saturday morning, October 18th, 2014. And they were about 30 seconds into, I think it was the term she used was resuscitating. The longest they go into is 2 minutes, and they were asking me and they were almost a minute in, if they wanted to go the full 2 minutes, and I said yes, of course. I'm running short on breath. I can't believe what the heck is going on. And the person that had called me was like one of the nurses that went away for a few seconds just to call me and then go back to try to help. And then they called back about 2 to 3 minutes later, saying there was nothing else they could do. That phone call, that situation. Sorry, guys. It's just it's engraved. It's like just stuck in my memory. It's so. If you knew me as like personally, that my memory is pretty bad. I can't remember if you asked me to do something like yesterday, and hey, can you do this for me tomorrow? Usually I'll forget, but this kind of thing is just so engraved that my wife and I were in such shock, and we just cried and laid down. We're both bawling our eyes out as I'm trying not to right now, and eventually he said, we gotta go. We gotta go see him one last time. Again, it's like a 45-minute hour drive. I know a little, it's a little better on a Saturday morning with the traffic, but still, it's both of us are both crying on the way there, and then when they bring him in wrapped in a towel, it was just sorry, it just didn't seem real. It's just you're just telling yourself there's no way that this happened, that this is going on right now. So to go, we paid our last respects, and they kind of went over our options with us. I personally petted him, kissed him on the head. Told him I was sorry about everything that happened. Yeah, I loved him. They went over our options with us, but the crazy part is, when I get into like the mess of this, is that they didn't really run through like the paperwork with us as far as the options, and we were both so emotionally stressed out and crying that we didn't think to read it over. And I found out like later in the day when we went home that you could do other things. You could do like some kind of necklace thing. You could do the paw print. Yeah, immediately, and I was like, oh my gosh, I thought the paw print was really something special to have. Uh, you know, for those of you who have had bunnies pass and gotten a paw print, it's like their print before they're cremated, or whatever you have done. It's always the parent's choice. That's kind of just pressed into this clay, and then their name is written on it. So that was as mostly stressed out as we were about the whole situation. Then it became into like anger because we were really I personally was pissed. I let myself have it on Midwest. They probably didn't deserve it, but I was really, really just mostly stressed out and frustrated. And I'm calling them, and the place that was having him cremated wasn't answering the phone, and I'm like, oh my gosh, again, it's not the biggest deal in the world, but it's just something you want. It should be something that you should be in control of in that kind of situation. And I finally, when I got a hold of the place I was cremating him the next day, is when I found out that he wasn't, and I said, can we please do the paw print thing, whatever it is, $20, $30. He said, yes, of course. So that worked out, but that whole situation was just really crazy because you just went for hours crossing fingers that he wasn't, because this is something my wife and I just both really wanted. The response from my friends and family was pretty overwhelming in how supportive they were. With friends, I didn't talk about Milo that much. I'm sorry if the heat that kicked on in the house, it's pretty cold outside, is messing with the sound. I'll try my best to block it out. Yeah, I don't know, a lot of my friends and family called me saying I'm sorry when I either posted the news on Facebook or I texted them about it. I got a couple of things in the mail actually from the rescue. This was from Midwest Exotic. Says in memory. I got the card in my hand. I still have the cards. We got 3 of them. I still have the cards. It says Dear Morgan, which is my wife's name. And, like the paperwork and everything was just set up in her name. So very sorry for your loss of Milo. He was an amazing boy who gave the best bunny kisses. He was so lucky to be part of such a loving family as yours. Please know in your heart that you did good. You did everything possible for him. My deepest condolences, sincerely, Doctor. Their name is kind of scribbled in cursive, but and then someone else signed. I think this was a nurse. Milo was such a sweet little boy. I'm so very sorry for your loss. You did all you could for him. That was from Midwest. And then our personal vet that we have now for our 2 bunnies. We only took them for Milo maybe once or twice. Sent us a card, and then the Illinois College of Veterinary Medicine received a donation. Again, that's the Illinois College of Veterinary Medicine. Got a thing in the mail. They say they received a donation, and from his name is Dr. Valenti, of the Family Pet Clinic. That was his personal vet. They received a donation in honor of Milo's memory, which I thought was really good because this college, the college looks into I didn't really do much research into the college, but veterinary medicine, a donation that seems like a worthy cause. So that was really nice of my vet to kind of do that. As some of you also know from the Periscope that and my bunny sign, my friends on the bunny sign team know that when I got married on September 4th, and you have the little brochures that kind of list out the parents, the grandparents, maid of honor, the bridal party, blah blah blah. Oh, that list out all that stuff. If you've ever been to a wedding, they hand that to you when you walk into the ceremony. If you've ever been married, you know what I'm talking about. And then the bottom, for the in loving memory section, it's in loving memory of those who are watching from heaven. I literally got it in my hand. I'm reading it. We know you'd be here today if heaven weren't so far away. And then a list names: Vicky Hayes, which is my mom; James Ebney, which is my uncle; Maeve Adams, which is my wife's cousin; Nana and Grandpa, her grandparents; and then our bunny Milo. So yeah, that's how that's how serious we were about Milo, that he was included on her wedding brochure card thing. Because initially we wanted him to be part of the wedding in the house. Shortly, around his passing is actually when we were looking into thinking about picking a wedding date. We knew we were getting married, but picking a wedding date and kind of start the beginning of house hunting, not house hunting, but hey, what kind of house do you think you would want, and what, how much money, that kind of thing, the discussion. And our vision and part of our dream was having Milo part of our wedding, and Milo having his own bedroom in the house and having free range of the house. He wasn't able to have free range of the whole house because there was a dog at the other house, and while they were friendly with each other, you don't leave them two alone. You just never know what could happen, a dog and a rabbit. So that was part of our dream, and that's just one of the sad parts that about this is that we were actually gonna have him be the ring bearer, where he'd be carted out in a little cart in his cage, with the rings around on his, if we put a thing on him, not a costume, but a collar Sorry, I couldn't spit that out. Like a collar with the rings on it or something, and then someone can cart him back immediately into the hotel, um, where he could be, safe in his cage. That was kind of part of our dream, and it just sucks talking about it that he wasn't able to be part of that, because that would have been awesome, and I think it would have been really cool to see for my friends and family and for us. Switching over to some notes. Um, for all of you guys that have lost bunnies, you just notice it right away. I mean, coming home, when we got home from, deciding on picking up, or not picking up, that he was getting cremated and getting the paw print, it's a different feeling in that room or that house. Um, it's just, there's no noise, it's like too quiet. Uh, you just kind of notice it right away when they're not there. He would kind of hop over sometimes. He would just hop over to the door when you came home, when you walked into the bedroom, and not to hear him chopping on lettuce or hay, or running around with the pillows at night, or his morning shenanigans. Those are sorry. Those are just things that you just notice and you miss right away. When we got, some of you guys have met Fluffs, which is my little black bunny. She's like a Rex and an American. We first gave her lettuce and she was like chopping down. My wife and I looked at each other and we're like, man, we we really miss that noise, like the eating noise of rabbits, because it's just so. You just get so used to it, it just becomes part of an everyday thing. Um, we couldn't, because of the circumstances of the wedding and house hunting, we just couldn't. We knew it would be wrong to adopt a bunny, to where we wouldn't, just because of everything that was going on with buying a house and preparing for a wedding, that it wouldn't be right to adopt a bunny and not spend any time with it at all, and it would have been a pain to do it, and also have like her parents, be okay with adopting another one. So it was painful, but we decided, to wait on adopting again. I eventually, on the House Rabbit group page, posted about him. It was on New Year's Eve, December 31st of last year. The reason I didn't really do it sooner is because I didn't really want it to be public. I just wanted it to be with the House Rabbit community. People that would understand. And I've talked about this in the past, that with the great thing about the House Rabbit group page, or whether it's the Bridge Bunnies Forever in Our Hearts page, is that there's people in there that understand what you're going through. And a lot of ignorant, I don't want to say ignorant, but people that just don't think of rabbits as that kind of special bond that you can have with them. They just think, oh, why don't you just adopt another bunny? It's just, we all know that it's just not like that. It's not that easy. They're more than just a bunny or just a rabbit. They're, a companion. Milo was like one of my one of my best buddies. People people take breaks with people because they get mad and they don't feel like talking to them for a while, and people, bail on plans, and those kind of things happen all the time, and it's frustrating. But I would always kind of look at Milo and I'm like, I always got you, buddy. you know, uh, he's like, and then I would just look at him like, what, I don't care about staying home because I'm staying home with you. So that's always kind of how I viewed it. It's like, screw it, me and you will watch a movie or watch sports or whatever sporting event. Milo pretty much changed my whole outlook on rabbits, bunnies. I was very active on Twitter, on my own personal Twitter account, with House Rabbit Society, with pictures and videos, and House Rabbit Society made him like Rabbit of the Day on their website, which was just really cool. And then he had a video of the day, which was his Milo Loves Pillow videos, which was just awesome. And I'm always proud of that. That he was like Milo was like a mini celebrity through the House Rabbit page. They all loved him. Every time I sent him a picture, and sent him, uh, sorry, just gave him updates. They were just like, they just loved him. And on YouTube and on Twitter, he was just like, like a little star. Well, a big star for Fun's Giant. Um, there is one other card that I meant to read. Uh, this is actually from my wife's cousins and aunts and uncles. They all kind of just signed it, one card, which is very sweet of them. Pets touch our lives in their own special ways and remain forever in the warmest corners of our hearts. This is Morgan and Randy sending you thoughts of comfort and wishes that many special memories you hold in your heart will help you through this sad time. And then, so sorry to hear about Milo. We know he was a sweet bunny, and he was a big part of your life. He is happy hopping in bunny heaven. Love, and then everyone like signed their name, which is very sweet of him. Uh, as Going into his videos, he has like Milo loves pillows, and then Milo and his bear, and there's like a couple of those, and then there's just random ones of him like flopped over and taking a nap, because I just thought it was always like the funniest thing. Um, Again, I will post those in the subscription, in the description of the YouTube video. Those links, I'll just copy and paste them in there, so you guys, if you're interested in watching them, which I recommend watching it, and it's not for views. I don't care about views on those videos. Those were put up so I could always watch them whenever. And if I ever lost them on my laptop or phone, that hey, they're on YouTube, I could hop on YouTube.com and title Milo Loves video or Milo Loves Pillows. Um, Milo, as far as Milo changing my life, he led me into becoming a part of Bunny Zine. It was in December, I believe, or January. I'm sorry, Dustin, that I'm losing track of when you did in late 2014 or early 2015. He did remembering uh, issue, easy Bunny Zine issue for bunnies that passed away, and I was kind of late to the party on it, on sending in an email for it with Milo's information, his story, and a picture. And Dustin was really awesome and put him in either the next issue or that issue. I'm kind of drawing a blank on that timeline, but I'm forever grateful because I have that issue downloaded and I could always look at that. Just a funny picture of him and a couple of paragraphs that I had. And over time, I just kind of, as Bunny Zine was like kind of posting questions here and there, I kind of put in my 2 cents and ideas and thoughts, and then Dustin came up with the Bunny Zine development team, and I was lucky to be invited on, and I'm always grateful for that opportunity. And that's when we started rolling with me doing the Twitter and me doing the Instagram, the Periscope. I just kind of did that on my own, and then we had talked about internally about doing a podcast, and it was it was really frustrating because I am still kind of new to this whole podcast process. That's the word I'm trying to spit out. Kedzie Rivera is my post-production. She is my one-person post-production team, and she does the editing for it. So quick shout out to Kedzie, as I try to give her a shout out all the time, for cleaning it up for me and putting in pictures and stuff on YouTube. So thank you, Kedzie. But yeah, that led me into Bunnysign, and I wanted to become a bigger member of the bunny community. Uh, the thousands of us that are spread out across the world. Uh, as I learned through the Bunnysign Twitter that there are awesome bunny people around the world, and with like Tommy and uh, there's just awesome bunny pages. I think Frederick, he's like this Flemish giant that Dustin and I came across like a couple weeks ago, and he's from Germany. It's an awesome thing to see bunnies around, around the world have their own Facebook pages, and you see videos of them doing cute stuff, and you just immediately like them, you just immediately attached to them, and that's why Tommy and Reggie got tribute issues, because they were so popular bunnies that thousands of people loved, and I mean really, really loved. And well, I knew of Reggie, and I didn't visit. I did sometimes visit his page, and Tommy, for me, was just it was a big time. That one hurt, because I had this obsession with Flemish Giants, big bunnies, because of Milo, and I always a couple of times a week at the very least just clicked over to their page just to see if they had a cool video up, and he had a beautiful relationship with Majay, his bun wife, and I'm going out of losing track, but I became more involved, and which led into this Bunnysign BZCast, and it started off. It's been a little rough here and there of trying to schedule guests and try to come up with ideas, but it's gone well, and I don't have like 1,000. No video has thousands of views or even hundreds of views, but the feedback, the small amount of feedback that I've gotten for the Bunnysign BZCast has been good. I really haven't gotten a large amount of complaints, and I've made a lot of stupid mistakes with sounds and noises and scheduling issues, to where I scheduled with Dustin, and I was an hour off for our episode, and Dustin messaged me, he's like, hey, is everything okay? And I was like, yeah, what's up? And he's like, aren't we supposed to be recording? And I was like, oh, I just thought it was an hour from now, not right now. So I've been really, really lucky that all these guests, and Martin, including herself, to where we were having horrible technical issues with Ann Martin, and she still decided to do the show the next day and do an awesome episode, as we talked about the National House Rabbit Society and Whole Foods and the LCA investigation and other stuff that we talked about. I'm really grateful to host this, and I'm even more grateful to Milo that I wouldn't be doing this kind of thing if it wasn't for him. I really wouldn't. I probably would have. I might have known what Bunnysign was if I might have came across it, but I probably wouldn't. I'm being honest. I wouldn't know all these awesome bunny pages and bunny pages on Twitter, on Facebook, and Instagram, and I wouldn't be able to appreciate the hard work and sacrifice that people at rescues that put into their lives for rabbits. And it's all because of Milo. I'm incredibly grateful that he was in my life. We had him for 3 years. He was a year old when we adopted him. He was only, he had just turned 4 the previous month. Well, we kind of deemed his gotcha day his birthday, but so he had just turned roughly around 4 years old, so he was only 4 when he passed. Before I get into the other tributes. I'm going to load them up real quick. But before I get into the other tributes, I'm not a very religious person, or like I believe in like a God, but I'm not someone who just goes out of the way and prays all the time, and it's just not my kind of thing. I believe that it exists, and that's pretty much as far as I go. Um, that bothers you, I'm sorry. But I have, and prayer, and like the couple of times I've done it, like I've either talked to my mom, where I'm trying to send a message to my mom, or trying to send a message to Milo. And I don't know, that probably sounds a little crazy, but I do. I just kind of hope that messages get to the Rainbow Bridge, uh, as it would get into, a regular, what we would be deemed as like a regular human heaven, quote unquote. But so on a podcast in this kind of forum that will go out, uh, be on iTunes podcast, SoundCloud, and YouTube in a couple of days, is that Milo, your mom and I miss you every day. We talk about you every day. In some kind of way, whether it's a picture or a video or both sorry about the way that you passed, and you wish you were still here. You would love being a part of this, of the wedding and the house and everything else. It's good. Life is good, but it doesn't still feel fully complete without you. So, we love you, buddy. You take care. That's my final, not my final, but my personal, whatever it is, podcast message to Milo. And I will take a glass of water. Okay. A little better. But that is my closeout of Milo's story, and I probably was into his passing more than into talking about him. I'm looking at the time, and I'm like a little over an hour and 20 minutes. But Milo meant the world to my wife and I, and he's forever a part of my heart, part of my soul. And I'm grateful to Dustin and Bunny Zine. Is that mostly not to bawl my eyes out for letting me do this show. So, another sip of water real quick. Through email, I have two tributes, and I posted on Facebook at least 3 times this week, that I wanted to read. I wanted other people to have this opportunity that I got, that I was lucky to have, to read tributes, that they wrote for their Rainbow Bridge bunnies, where I could read them on the air. Like I said earlier, that there's no time limit. I could talk as long as I want. So I will go into the email first. I have I'm sorry. I apologize in advance if I mess up someone's name. I sound stupid anyway with my nose all messed up and my throat all messed up. But Diane Kempton, and I'm just reading it verbatim. Butterscotch was a rescue bunny who attended events with me to promote rabbit care. Everyone who met him fell in love. I received lots of correspondence on his death from all over the world. Diane, thank you if you're listening. Thank you for sharing that with us. like I said, it could have been a paragraph, a couple of paragraphs. Um, Again, this Diane Kempton, her tribute for her bunny butterscotch. So this one is longer and actually sent me a picture. So maybe I might be able to. I don't know if I'll be able to post this picture or not on the video. This is from Carmela Bracco. Um, this is actually just from a few hours before this recording. Um, so, like, again, I'll just read it word for word. Here we go. My name is Carmela. I live in Kalamazoo, Michigan. On December 23rd, 2009, my precious Timothy found me. I was at the indoor farmers market in Kalamazoo, and I had gone there to buy maple syrup. Suddenly, I heard people talking about bunnies if all were sold. I looked down and saw a brown box with a little butterscotch and white baby Dutch bunny. He was staring at me on his hind feet and checking me out. He looked so lonely in that box with not much food or toys. I saw the box was labeled $10. I felt compelled and had to have him, so I got him. I took the box to the nearest pet shop and got a cage and food for him. I never had a bunny before, and so the adventures began. Timothy eventually had a full run of the house except at nighttime. He would greet me every morning when I was getting ready for work and always watch me as I studied and did my schoolwork in the evenings. Um, he also loved walking on my back. He had a great and fun life. I took him to my school 7 times and let my high school students pet him. He was big. He was a big hit. He's also very photogenic. He liked to pose for the camera and ended up on Bun Space calendar and won second place in one of their contests for his baby picture. Aw. Timothy started slowing down a bit. 2013, I noticed a few lumps under his chin, or around his chin. I took him to several vets who noticed his lungs were not well. I decided to have one of the lumps biopsied. On what would be his final night, we had a nice drive together from Kalamazoo to Grand Rapids. When I dropped him off the night before his procedure, I had no idea that he would be the last time I would see him alive. Oh. Timothy passed away on June 13th, 2013 from complications of anesthesia. He was living on borrowed time before that. He was only 3.5 years, and he wasn't even 4 yet, but he taught me what wonderful pet bunnies are and that I could care for and adopt other bunnies in his honor who needed a home. He was fun and such a character. He was my bunny boo, and I still think about him and miss him every day. So again, that is Carmela and about her bunny Timothy, and it's a very cute picture of him like laying on the carpet. That is Carmelo Bracco for her tribute. I'm going to open up Facebook real quick just to double check. I'm just doing this on my phone, which I can do because I don't have a guest on the phone. So there's no new ones, but there was one message to me the other day. This person actually asked if her bunny could be in an issue, and then I messaged her back saying, "Hey, I'm doing this podcast." Actually, her name is, I'm gonna really mess this up, Monica Zawicka Jesus or Jesus. I'm really sorry, Monica. I'm messing up your name. I messaged Monica back and said, "Hey, let me, I'm doing this tribute episode. Just message me something you would like for me to read for her bunny Charlie, who had just passed away just a couple of weeks ago, prior to this recording." So I actually just loaded it. And I have her thing. It's around a paragraph. Just make sure I got it right. Okay. Charlie, it's not even a month when you went to the Rainbow Bridge, but it seems so long now. The day when I adopted you from RSPCA was the best day and best decision in my life. So shame. All this 5 years just gone too fast. I miss our cuddle, your snoring, your company. I miss everything about you. I love you. Too bad and always will. Our house is very empty without you, you know. But I'm glad I gave you a few happy years and spoiled you as much as I can. You deserved everything best. Binky free, my sweet boy. In Bunny's heaven with your cute veil. Sorry, I get a little emotional reading the other ones. And remember, one day I will meet you again. You remind me. So that is Monica for her bunny Charlie. Is a very, very. All three of these were really sweet to where I'm getting emotional reading someone else's uh, tributes. But they're very sweet. Thank you guys for messaging me and emailing those in. And I hope you guys were happy with me reading it. I hope it just went well and it was everything that you wanted. Oh, I almost forgot about one more part. Give me 2 seconds. Oh, I did want to give a quick shout out to Robert Waters. Robert Waters is is someone who writes bunny poems. That's usually related to like passing. Uh, you guys might know him as Bun Bun Raw on like the Facebook pages. Um, but he had a ton of poems, and I was going to read a couple. He posted a ton to me, um, but there's like a bajillion of them. I'm trying to see. I apologize. Just be patient for 1 minute, guys. Sorry about that. Seeing if I could load any of these. Oh, one thing that I want to talk about with Bunny Zine while I'm doing this, I don't think I mentioned in the beginning, is that Dustin is doing uh, he went to a new website, so he's facing some issues with it right now, and I think he's posted it on the Facebook page. But when that gets all situated, the website is going to grow and it's going to expand and it's going to allow us to do a lot of other things. And I'm really looking forward to that, which it will involve you guys even more, which is awesome. I love including listeners and fans of Bunny Zine and what Bunny Zine does, whether it's e-magazines or the podcast. Okay, again, this is Bun Bun Raw, which is Bun Bun RWA on Facebook. Is run by Robert Waters. So a quick shout out to him. He runs these poems in this page on Facebook. Again, that's Bun Bun RWA. Bun Bun Raw with the poems. He's got a ton of them. I'll read this one right here. It's titled Joybringer. When you're weary, feeling small, when tears are in your eyes, I will dry them all. I'm on your side. When times get rough and friends just can't be found, I'm a bun bringing you joy to your soul. I will calm you down. I'm a bun bringing joy to your soul. I will calm you down. When you're down and out, when you're on the street, when everything falls so hard, I will comfort you. I'll warm your heart. When darkness comes and pain is all around, I'm a bun bringing joy to your soul. I will cheer you up. I'm a bun bringing joy to your soul. I will cheer you up. Hop on, bunny girl, hop on by. Your time has come to shine. All your dreams are on their way, and see how they shine. If you need a friend, I'm hopping right behind. I'm a bun bringing joy to your soul. I will ease your mind. I'm a bun bringing joy to your soul. I will ease your mind. Bun Bun RWA, Rabbit with Attitude. That's just one of them. I told Robert, Robert, if you're listening, that I might read a couple, but I am completely read out on reading incredibly emotional stuff. I think I'm kind of just a little drained. But again, he deserves a shout out because he writes good stuff. That's a very sweet thing that he wrote. And he's got, I don't, probably over 100 of them on his page. I'm just making that up, but Bun Bun, one word, space RWA on Facebook. Like his page, his Facebook page, and check out his work because it's really good. It's very emotional, very sweet. Um, my PBSA is dealing with the situation of a lost bunny, of questioning yourself, questioning decisions that you made in the process of their passing, or if there's anything that you could have done different. As I mentioned earlier, the night before he passed, I argued with myself on the way home about bringing him home that night. Talking about Milo, and those things are really easy to do, but you shouldn't. There's just some kind of destiny way that if it happened, then it was just almost meant to be in that kind of way, and it's a tough pill to swallow, and I still really can't fully to this day. It's been a year today, but I still can't fully grasp how everything happened, and fully understand it, but it's just not healthy. You will lose sleep, and that kind of stress on yourself will just hurt you. And so my only personal advice is to look at it in a different way, as to celebrate their life. And what I've talked about in the past is what I did with his videos. I made a remembering Milo video on YouTube, and it's just a PowerPoint video on all his pictures, just 4 minutes with music in the background, of pictures of Milo, and a special little message to Milo at the end of the video. Those kind of things I recommend that people do. If I'm not even the most talented person when it comes to that. It took me hours to do, and I cried a lot during it. But I'm happy that I did. And I get this podcast tribute for him as well, of course. But whether it's making a picture book, which my wife and I have on our bookshelf. It's just 400 pictures of him. Printed out pictures of him, or you make an online photo album, or whatever you want to do. I just recommend that you do it, and save it in a special place, post it on something to where you could always have it, and you kind of feeling down, or you just be like, what, I want to watch that video, or I want to see his picture, blah blah blah. It's always there, and that's the kind of thing I recommend, is making a picture book, or some kind of video or montage, or people do collages sometimes. And part of this PBSA is that I took a lot of time with him for granted. I took a lot of time with Milo for granted, to where I'll hang out with them tomorrow night, so I'll go do this with a friend and blah blah blah, which I am not trying to make anyone feel bad, because you of course should spend time with your friends and family, but my recommendation is to take maybe some more time that you had for other stupid. We all have little hobbies. I don't want to call them stupid, but little hobbies that that are personal, and you take time to do them. My only, whether it's if you golf, or I'm just throwing that out there as an example. And that's the only thing I can think of off the top of my head. take maybe a little chunk of time and spend it with your bunny at home, as most of you probably have a bunny at home that are listening, um, because that time goes by so fast, and in most situations when it comes to like a cat or a dog, unless some kind of sickness comes up, you kind of have a guess of how much time you have with them as far as like years. It's a little different with bunnies because of how their stomach is made, and their just how they're built, to where it just seems more. It's just crazy. It's all over the place. I read stuff on the Bridge Bunnies page, Bridge Bunnies Forever in Our Hearts page, or the House Rabbit Group page of bunnies that are not even a year old, are getting infections, or getting sick, or circumstances are always different. Some bunnies are just found in bad situations, and there's not much you can do. But those kind of things happen. Milo was 4, and that's part of why her and I were also emotionally stressed out, but pissed, was that we felt he was robbed of what we thought should have been a much longer life. And I'm sure a lot of people that are listening probably feel the same way about their bunnies, that are, like I said, I see stories, 6 months, 8 months, a year. That's horrible. That's not it. No one would define that as like a good run, it's a weird term, but people use that term when it comes to human and animal life, as what's considered in your view a good run. People talk about that with their grandparents when they get in like their 70s and their 80s, like, oh, they had a good run at life, blah blah blah, and they passed away. And I'm just using an example. I'm not trying to speak on anyone's personal situation. I'm just using that as an example. We all have different definitions and different viewpoints on what's considered a good run in human and animal life. It depends on situations. It depends on circumstances. But that's part of why I feel like I could have spent more time with them, because you never would have think that they would pass away at 4 years old, especially when nothing has ever come up before. If something came up before, and the vet said, hey, you got to look out for this in the future. I can't even think of anything off the top of my head, but you would be a little more cautious, but you take time for granted, and everything is going smooth, everything is going great, and then something comes up, and 3.5 days later, Milo has passed. So that's my PBSA, is to maybe take a little bit more time that you have for other little things that could wait. Emergency situations and family get-togethers and time with friends, I completely understand all of that, and I still do that today. I went to my friend's house the other day to watch a football game, and I have the 2 bunnies at home. But as soon as I get off this podcast, I'll be hanging out with them. They're in 2 separate bedrooms, but I'll be going back and forth in bedrooms for a while, hanging out and spending time with them. Just to maybe schedule a little more of your whatever available time. We all have busy lives, into like bonding with your bunnies, spending time with them. Again, I would like to thank Bunnyzine, Dustin, for letting me do this show. It is definitely our longest. I'm almost at the minute or hour 45 mark, hour and 45 minutes. But that's Milo. That's how much he meant to me, and has how awesome he was and how important his story was to me to tell you guys. And yeah, that's it. I'll probably I this is my one time episode about him. Of course, I'll talk about him in the future in future shows, but this is my one time tribute episode to him, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. Sorry for getting emotional and throughout the story, and probably you probably couldn't understand what I was saying at some points, but that's how much he meant to me, and I know you guys feel the same way about your bunnies. I'd like to thank the people that emailed and messaged their tributes in. Shout out to Robert Waters on his Bun Bun RWA page. And by the time this comes out, we'll be within like a week and a half of November 1st Bunnies on Issue. So stay tuned for that. And then I will, of course, update you guys on the Twitter, the Bunnies Instagram, and Periscope on future things going on with that stuff. So that's pretty much it for me pretty much it for me. Again, if you're listening to this on SoundCloud or iTunes podcast, which is okay, hop over to our YouTube channel, find the video, and then you could see other videos of Milo. And then I say that because you'll truly understand how awesome he was by watching those videos that I'll have posted in the description of the YouTube video. So take care, you guys. Spend a little bit more time with your bunnies. Thank you for listening. Goodbye.